This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines, plus those that make you go,
Hello, good morning, and welcome on to the Morning Majlis. Brand new day, and I'm very excited about one thing this morning, guys.
So Hail Star.
So Hail Star, how did you know? Did you see my screen?
I memorized the lesson.
Yeah, memorized the lesson. Yes, so Hail Star.
Talk about it for 1 week now.
1 week now, yes. It is what the second brightest stars, and usually appears on the 24th of August. And according to historical narrative, this is the time when the weather gets better. People used to plan their pearl diving, fishing season as well, and it is the time when the days will begin to get shorter. Temperatures will begin to decrease, according to many astronomists in the country. But it is going to be visible during the early hours just before sunrise, and it remains the second brightest star. But yes, according to popular Arab knowledge and according to Emirati knowledge as well, this is the time when things are going to get slightly cooler. Though times have changed, so if someone calls, someone who wakes up in the morning says, okay, I saw a Sahel star, Morning Majlis was talking about it, but it's not cooled down yet.
No.
Guys, it's global warming. You know.
Yeah, of course.
Things happen, it's okay.
But I did feel
yeah.
there's less humidity
yes.
for the past couple of days.
Absolutely.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, and it's also a bit breezy as well. It's nice
Right,
and windy,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I didn't switch my car AC on this morning, so that goes to
didn't?
show. Nope, not at all. Yeah.
There you go.
That's good.
That says it.
That gives us a hope.
Yes, exactly. Fingers crossed. The weather is going to get better, and schools are going to restart. So if you're planning on going back to school, I can feel your pain, because back in the days, I used to be very disappointed in the final week of the summer holidays. But for now, us as adults, even if we had one day as a long weekend, we absolutely enjoyed that. And we cherish it for the max, isn't it?
Well, something that we didn't really enjoy.
Okay.
Remember those alarm messages we used to receive prior to the start of the National Disinfection Program hours?
Mm-hmm.
That was that infamous alarm alert had more power on us than our own parents when we were younger, right? And back when we had curfews to follow with our parents, but with the parents, it's like we can get away with 30 minutes or an hour being late, right? But during the disinfection program, it was not a joke. If you're outside and you get caught by police, you could eventually get fined. So that was not very pretty. And well, the reason why I'm reminiscing on this is because we have been witnessing an alarming increase in COVID-19 cases here in the nation as of late. And we have recorded just over 67,000 total cases with 375 deaths as of today. So in line with that, UAE authorities would consider reintroducing the national sterilization program in areas where an outbreak is detected and rules aren't obeyed. So we will talk about this more closely, what it entails, and how can we avoid going back to having curfew and stricter measures.
Absolutely, Rania. And we'll also delve into all the developments from around the world, the big developments that is, particularly what is happening in Belarus. After August 9th, there was an election on that date that kept Belarus's President Alexander Lukashenko in power. But there have been accusations of vote rigging, prompting massive protests that continue to this very day. We're going to talk about the latest from Belarus, what is going on, how other world leaders have responded, and whether President Alexander Lukashenko is expected to remain in power with this uproar happening.
Yep, of course, and we will be keeping you posted, informed and updated throughout the morning, and we are also welcoming your thoughts and opinions, so do drop us a text on 4215 to share your opinion and join the conversation on the Morning Majlis. If you're well acquainted with the Sahel Star, do let us know and enlighten us as well as the listeners as we are counting down the days to the start of cooler months, so that we can dine outside in the terraces and just have the wonderful outdoor
Enjoy the balconies.
Season. Yeah, exactly. That's what we need to do. Well, stay tuned to Pulse 95. We'll be right back after this short interval.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
Yes, this is Pulse 95. You can get in touch at 4215. And this discussion is, well, it's alarming for everyone because the UAE could be at risk of a second wave of COVID-19 outbreak. Now, that is if residents do not adhere to the strict precautionary measures to prevent the spread of the virus, and that is according to UAE authorities, because they are considering reintroducing the national sterilization program in areas where an outbreak is detected and rules aren't being obeyed. As of today, we have recorded just over 67,000 total COVID-19 cases with 375 deaths, which is very alarming. And a lot of people are being scared of going into the national sterilization program once again, and it could happen.
Look, I got loads of messages.
Yeah.
Given the fact that we work in media and
Right.
we're quite well connected with the announcements that come through, and some people started sharing some screenshots of our own very popular media sites saying, "Oh, look, this is announced and this is what's happening." Well, most people will be familiar with this noise, and courtesy of Rania, she's asked us to remind us of the
Right.
the horrifying sound, and this is how it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the days.
Dreadful.
Those were the days when we were told, look, the disinfection program is going to start. Get back indoors, and that's when we were, had to end everything.
And I mentioned earlier, it's more intimidating than our own parents back then when we used to have curfews when we were younger.
I think we shouldn't say that because the parents nowadays will be thinking, oh, so I can fine my own children so that they can stay indoors. Pocket money slashed by 75%. There you go. So sorry, kids. I know it's back to school time. But look, the reason why we're doing this is, and there's a lot been people saying, oh, when is this going to happen? When is the disinfection program going to start? Look, the authorities do not want to do it. And economically as well, we need to understand the challenges when it comes to such situations when we're closing down the whole city or the communities, because we're a very consumer-centric city. We love our services. If you can see outside nowadays, that ever since the restrictions have been eased, people are dining out, celebrating, having a good time. But that's where the lapse occurs.
And it was a big milestone when we started opening up responsibly again.
True.
So imagine if we close again. That's going to hurt everyone.
It's basic rules. So the authorities, so Ubaid Al-Hassan Al-Shamsi, the Director General of the National Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Authority, said that the pandemic has not ended. If UAE residents do not adhere to preventative measures, we will be on the verge of a second outbreak. Another aspect they said is the authorities are considering is tightening restrictions in select areas.
Yeah.
And that's what they'll have to do, because this is coming after an increase in cases. 390 new cases. Over the weekend, we had an average of 400 new cases emerging per day. 80 more recoveries took place. 3 deaths happened as per the stats from yesterday. Look, guys, before you start listening to whoever your sources are, or whoever's telling you, all information will come from the National Crisis and Disaster Management Authorities. NCEMA is where they will announce, and follow the official social media channels, follow the official alerts coming from authorities.
Guys, remember when the national disinfection was concluded, the day? I can never forget it.
It was a parade.
June 24th.
Oh.
It was big, wasn't it?
It was a big deal. So it was just, everyone was celebrating that day.
Everybody was, and hopefully we wouldn't have to get in another lockdown situation as well. And the UAE health authorities said that they're following a scientific, data-oriented approach, and that approach would drive any decisions to be made by the United Arab Emirates government. But they were very clear about complacency among the public being the primary cause of the rise of infections. Health authorities said that the government has been and is still doing everything it can to maintain the safety of everyone, and that people themselves need to exercise these measures in order to keep us from locking down, whether it's territories, locations, or the emirate as a whole. Now, some of the guidance overall in general is to wash your hands often to stay safe. Especially important to wash your hands before eating or preparing food, before touching your face, after leaving a public place or using the restroom or touching animals or pets. You should also avoid close contact. Maintain a distance of at least a meter or two from other people. Don't put yourself in situations where you could risk being in close distances. This might be a difficult thing to do, but if you're in a supermarket and you see it's crowded, might be a better call to just drive somewhere else. Take these precautions despite how challenging those decisions might be to make on the spot. Always cover your coughs and sneezes. Cover your mouth and nose with a tissue when you do it, or sneeze or cough into the inside of your elbow. Do not spit and throw used tissues in the trash as well. Always routinely clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces, including tables, doorknobs, and the inside of your vehicle. And maintain your health. Monitor your symptoms. If you have any cough, fever, shortness of breath, make sure you take the necessary measures. Don't show up to work. Take your temperature if symptoms develop. And follow the guidance by the UAE health authorities and get tested if you suspect yourself of having any of those symptoms.
So the bottom line, the pandemic has not ended. If we do not adhere to preventive measures, we will be on the verge of a second outbreak, which means the National Sterilization Program will be back and curfew hours will be set for us once again, and we're going to go through that hassle once again.
That's if we don't follow the precautions.
If we don't.
Yes,
Hopefully not.
exactly. Just in case you've just joined us and said, blame Rania now. No, it's...
If we do not adhere to
if
preventive
we do not
measures.
adhere to the precautions. And one thing is, I actually came across this during at a shopping mall.
Yeah.
There was a shopping trolley right next to me, and it was at a customer service desk. Obviously, someone had used it, and it wasn't given back to the team that disinfected. Two people came up to that trolley and said, "Okay, let's pick it up." One person said, "Oh, hang on a minute, it's not been sprayed," and his partner or his buddy or his pal said, "It doesn't matter to us."
Oh no.
That mindset needs to change. That is from the bottom to the top. Needs to be done. Yes, you could say, look, whoever's been coming in, they've been temperature checked and everything. It's just a basic protocol. If it's been touched and used by someone else, it needs to go through the disinfection. Don't just say, oh, it doesn't matter to us. If I get sick, I'll just get sick, and it was destiny. You got to make sure you take your own steps as well. We'll leave you with that. We'll take a bit of a break as we collect our thoughts and move on to the next discussion. This is about Belarus and what's happening over there. Stay tuned to Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to the Morning Majlis, the show where we talk about stories shaping the headlines. And this one's a pretty big discussion here. We're talking about schools. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, speaking to allies, said that failure to reopen schools is not an option. Earlier this month, Johnson said reopening schools in September was a social, economic, and moral imperative, and insisted that schools will be able to operate safely despite the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right, as schools in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland prepare to reopen, the Prime Minister said the risk of contracting coronavirus in one was very small. He said it is far more damaging for a child's development and their health to be away from school any longer. Now, his words echoed those of the UK's 4 chief medical officers as well. They have all signed a joint statement alongside deputy chief medical officers to reassure parents schools could mitigate risks during the pandemic. Now, pupils in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland are due to return to school in the coming days and weeks. Now, in Scotland, schools have already reopened.
Schools have reopened there, and thousands of private school teachers here in Sharjah are going to be tested for COVID-19. Schools are beginning to reopen, and I've actually come across a number of teachers as well who've come back to the country because they were abroad for the summer holidays, and all of them are going through the necessary precautions and guidelines and following all the guidelines issued by the Sharjah Private Education Authority. Now, this is going to be a big debate If I was a school child at the moment and someone asked me saying, "Do you want to go back to school?" I'd say no. Why? Because I don't want to wake up in the morning. Well, sadly, don't get a choice. But yeah, we do have the option here in Sharjah, and we'll be hearing from Private Education Authority later this week as well about the 1 month guideline that they've issued, saying, look, you can stay away, you can still do digital learning or online learning for the first term. To know more about this, you can log on to our podcast where we spoke to a spokesperson from Sharjah Private Education Authority who gave us a breakdown of the guidelines that were issued by the authority. But over in the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson's been saying that there is going to be no failure in reopening the schools, and they're very adamant that the life needs to go on. UK has been reopening responsibly. So far, now the hotspot has moved from London to other major towns in up north, Liverpool, Manchester. But as we've seen, sports has been resuming. And people are getting a little bit more optimistic about saying that if we enforce the guidelines, schools can reopen. But it's a factor of debate.
It is indeed. And looking at the scientific side to this, the chief medical officers of England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales said in a statement that children are less likely to catch COVID-19 than adults, and they have a, quote, exceptionally low risk from dying from the disease. By contrast, they said studies show that not going to school would limit the children's ability to succeed in life and may in fact worsen physical and pre-existing mental health problems. According to the statements, very few, if any, children or teenagers will come to long-term harm from COVID-19. Quote, this has to be set against a certainty of long-term harm to many children and young people from not attending school. Now, this is taking place in Britain, which has the highest confirmed virus-related death toll in Europe at over 41,000 people. Boris Johnson's government has also been strongly criticized for not locking down sooner, not giving medical workers enough protective equipment, and not properly protecting the elderly in care homes from the virus. So there's a bit of a microscope here on what Boris Johnson is doing. A lot of heated discussion and debate as to whether or not this is the right move or yet another mistake by the British government.
Look, I mean, this is a debate that we're welcoming your thoughts. If you'd like to share your opinions, 4215 is the text line. If you'd like to DM us on Instagram, if you're one of the millennial parents, then do get involved on the DM of Pulse 95 Radio. A lot of people have been saying, people have gotten in touch with us, saying that they're delighted that schools are going to be reopening here in the United Arab Emirates.
Right.
Because as offices are reopening, as people are going back, the adults parents are going back to work, the last thing they want is to hear, Mommy or Daddy, where did you leave this? Where's this? Oh, I burnt the toast. And they don't want to be worrying about what's happening at home.
Yeah, that's the case.
True. So they want children to go back into the schools, which is going to be a safe environment. And across the UAE, most schools are going to be having the COVID-19 task force responsible for overseeing the precautionary measures. So if any parent is worried, thinking, well, what's my child going to be doing in school? The people are well equipped now. Our schools and authorities have done well in terms of establishing those safety protocols. So there's nothing to worry too much about. But yes, of course, if they're at home, if they're not learning, you'll be worried and concerned. So it is, our one argument could say is let schools go back.
Yeah, but according to this online survey that was carried out by the Ministry of Education, discovered that out of about 28,000 participants, 59% of respondents said they would rather choose distance learning for their children, while only 41% said they preferred the method of children being physically present in schools. But yeah, I'm thinking the 41% had those thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
Being at home, the worries of them being at home while the families or the parents are at work, especially now that most of us are back to work now in the offices. So I think it's the worrying aspect of them being at home unattended.
That's definitely a major factor here.
And of course, the COVID-19s. A lot of families and parents, they're still worried.
Absolutely, Rania.
Yeah.
And there's also the idea here that it's not exactly a zero-sum game. So it means if you open up schools again, it doesn't mean that X will happen or the virus will go back. If everybody's compliant with the rules of social distancing, cleaning your hands routinely, you can have both at once. You can reopen schools and still be safe regardless.
Yes.
And the other factor here, and this is very important, the disease is here, and we've been reporting on optimistic signs, vaccines being worked on, but to this day, there's still no idea as to when a vaccine will arrive. So if people can go back to some sense of normality, the focus can be on being safe no matter what, exercising the precautions and protecting vulnerable individuals, of which children are not a group, because scientists say that they're less likely to suffer the long-term impact of the coronavirus. Then we can reopen in a responsible manner and place that responsibility on us, acting in an appropriate fashion and taking care of one another, because there are no guarantees and the virus hasn't disappeared, and we can, in fact, go back to normalcy while remaining safe.
Yeah, and look, us as adults, we do enjoy going to work as well because it keeps us in a routine and we like some form of dictation for us. Children are the same. They want to go back to school. They want to meet their friends. They feed off the energy from meeting their friends. They get competitive in schools and the tests that they do. But staying at home and distance learning, a couple of school children that I spoke to within my own family, they've been saying, look, we just got drained. We even keep our laptops on mute when our microphones on mute. We just don't talk. We're there.
Right.
We keep a camera switched off, but it's not the same. It's not the same. And distance learning, yes, it is the future, but it's still too early for the young children to give them that, because in universities you're doing distance learning most of the time anyway. But yeah, it's still too soon to put them to make them go through it. But do get involved. This is the Majlis for you to share your thoughts and opinions. Text lines are open 4215. If you'd like to continue listening to this conversation on audio, you can stream us live on pulse95radio.com. And if you'd like to continue having this visual experience of Morning Majlis, we do try to brush up well for you guys. Do join us on YouTube, Pulse 95 Radio, and streaming live, and do enjoy the musical content that we've also got, and that's going to be up next. We'll take a bit of a breather and we'll be right back after that.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Hello, good morning and welcome back onto the Morning Majlis. And yes, it is going to be a halftime Majlis. We're talking a lot about the world of sports, and lots of shout outs to Omar Abduri. So he's going to be hosting the sporting show. The only place to be at 3 is the halftime show. So 3 p.m. you can hear all the analysis from our presenter Omar Abduri, who's going to be talking a lot about the Champions League game that happened yesterday. If you are a Parisian fan, or a fan of Paris Saint-Germain, this might not sound that great. But yes, it is Bayern Munich winning the Champions League for the 6th time, and what a true delight it has been for the fans as well, because they got to see it. 400 people were at the stadium. Lots of social distancing at the ground, but Bayern Munich finally sealing the deal with a 1-0 win over Paris. But to give you good points to Paris and the caliber of forwards they were playing in this game, with the likes of Neymar, Kylian Mbappe as well, and also on the Bayern Munich side, Robert Lewandowski, it just was a fantastic game. It didn't end towards the end. At the end, we could still see Paris trying for that last resort. And there was one chance that I remember very, very clearly. It was towards the end of the stoppage time of the second half. It just required one tap, just a tap, and it would have been a draw, and we would have seen a very, very intense final. But sadly, they missed out on the chances. And in the world of sports, you got to take your chances. You miss out, that will be it for you.
Absolutely. They lifted the trophy in an empty Estadio da Luz in Lisbon about 85 days after the final had originally been scheduled in Istanbul, actually. And this was a 21st straight win by Bayern in all competitions. Of course, their remarkable run through the Champions League highlighted their 8-2 route of Barcelona in the quarterfinals saw them outscore their opponents 43-8. This was a game not to forget for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't. And one thing that really popped out at me is after the first half, when despite the fact that Bayern missed all these chances, they still had this confidence, this self-assuredness about them, this calmness, as if they thought in the back of their heads, we got this. PSG did not look that way, so there was almost something magical about the way they played the rest of the game and the first half as well. And it's a historic moment. I think it's the first time a team in the Champions League has gone 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they've done extremely well. Bayern Munich, they just look like a formidable force. The way they shocked Barcelona just went on to it resembled and mirrored what Germany were doing in the FIFA World Cup. They just were ruthless. They were on top of everything, and they just looked like a side that were there on a mission, and they're going to do it. One big takeaway from what I saw during the encounter was Emmanuel Neuer, the goalkeeper for Bayern Munich and the senior-most player in a very young squad of Bayern Munich. Just goes to show that you need a bit of experience. You do need one guiding figure at least in this team of the youth and young blood, you could say. But Emmanuel Neuer showed the brilliance that he had in 2013 and also the time when Bayern Munich last won it. But really incredible performance by Emmanuel Neuer. I think he was the biggest takeaway. Even in the dying minutes, when the final tap was about to happen, when Paris was ramping up the pressure. And usually for any team that's in a very good position in the final, it's the last dying minutes, it's the final hurdle that becomes the most difficult. And even in sports mentality-wise, do correct me if I'm wrong. For most athletes, when they know they're so close to the final hurdle, the most difficult part is when they lose that big lead, they lose that big, or there's an obstacle in the way, or that final hurdle is extended for whatever reason. It's the most painful time. It is the most nervy time, and you get the butterfly effect, you know. And
for the audience as well.
Audience as well, you're on the feet because you're waiting for the final whistle.
Yeah.
But look,
for the fans,
thoroughly deserved. And yes, lots of players like Neymar, they were in tears because obviously when you're so close to that trophy and when you know you've been playing really well, Paris SG, lots of takeaways from them is that their spirit was very, very good throughout the game. They never admitted that they were down and out of the game, but you know, it was a very tough competition, very heated. Good final, not very Bayern Munich style because Bayern Munich is known for their constant attack. It's always a high-scoring game when they're around. This time we didn't get to see this, so lots of fans might be disappointed that they missed out on a high-scoring performance, but it kept you gripped. It definitely kept you gripped up, and but yeah, it's going to be.
But yeah, they're now the kings of Europe for the sixth time.
Yep, the kings of Europe for the sixth time.
Khalas, that's it. Rania called it.
Akid, you know, it's okay.
Akid.
But Omar Adouri's just texted us as well, saying the ability to remain calm in high-pressure situation was what got them past the line, and that's so key. And Emmanuel Neuer was the brick wall who kept his defense, his dives, his catches really spot on. It was a very, very good final to catch, even though it was a very late night for me, because watching it kind of coming back into the studios in the morning can be slightly difficult, but it was a final worth catching. And to know more about this and a bit more in-depth analysis, you can definitely catch it at the only place to be at 3, the halftime show. It's going to be hosted by Omar Adouri today. So Mondays, Wednesdays and Saturdays is when you can catch Omar Adouri's halftime show on the morning match. We tried to get him on the morning match, but he's got a very busy schedule. But on Pulse 95,
Majlis.
the halftime majlis, we try to fill it in for sure. But yes, we'll be right back after the short break. Up next, we'll be talking about the world of cricket. If you're a big fan of Indian Premier League, let's talk numbers.
Wait, we didn't answer the question yet.
2013.
2013.
I did, yes.
There we go.
So it was the last time. Emmanuel Neuer's brilliance was also seen back then. But yeah, if he's listening to us, he'll be blushing at the moment. But yeah, stay tuned to Pulse 95. We'll be right back.
Pulse 95. You're listening to Pulse 95. Pulse 95.
It's Pulse 95.